Well, certainly, as you mentioned, there is, of course, the risk of some errors taking place. This is a very carefully calculated exchange. The slightest error may cause the whole thing to collapse. But let's assume that it does work out, that it works out for the best. The question then really is, what happens after this? Will there be a return to the fighting? Will this pause and this swap be used to build momentum for additional prisoner exchanges? Will it go as far as to build momentum for an actual ceasefire? That would be the best case scenario, but it very much depends on what Hamas wants, what Israel wants, and what President Biden wants.
And this truce is expected to last 4 days. I've been speaking with experts all week about the situation on the ground. They tell me that they do expect this truce to hold. But of course, a key question mark now is exactly what happens next and whether or not we will eventually see some kind of a pathway to a ceasefire, a full halt in hostilities. What needs to happen in order to bring about that ceasefire, in your view?
Well, I think that one of the first things that may happen is that momentum or further pressure from the families of the hostages to have the Israeli government prioritize the prisoner swaps over the bombing of Gaza may very well happen. So far, that momentum and that pressure has been strong, but it's not until now that it's been given way. But if the prisoner swap actually is successful, then we will have proof of concept. And that may change the dynamics on the Israeli scene. Moreover, all of this international pressure, not just on Israel, but also on the United States, may finally also reach President Biden, who thus far has not put any pressure on the Israelis for a longer ceasefire. If that changes, then we may gain momentum for a real ceasefire that can put an end to the killings that are taking place in Gaza right now.
Indeed, and just on the politics of all of this, I know you've written only in the last few days about this situation. You say this hostage and prisoner exchange should also serve as somewhat of a wake-up call to the United States and to President Joe Biden about the viability of a ceasefire. Do you believe that the president should have perhaps used his political leverage to bring this situation about sooner rather than let this war unfold and all of these mass casualties take place?
Absolutely. I think it's very crucial to recognize that the United States' position on a ceasefire is as isolated internationally as Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been. The manner in which the U.S. has been isolated at the UN, for instance, as being the sole country that first vetoed the resolution that called for the very same humanitarian pauses that Biden later on, a few weeks later, and started championing. So I think this exchange could have happened earlier had there been more pressure from the United States and from Biden for it to happen. But given that it's now happened, the question is, will it be used for a longer ceasefire? And I think it would be in the interest of the United States to do so. It obviously would be in the interest of the people of Gaza, but also of Israel, because at the end of the day, for every additional person that is killed, either on the Israeli or on the Palestinian side, we will move one step further away from a real peace in the future. And so the sooner this ends, the better the prospects will be to be able to return to the negotiating table and negotiate a real peace, not just a truce or a ceasefire, but actually a real peace. But the more this goes on, the more difficult that will be.